Right, all right. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Jessica, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Enjoying this beautiful day I've been blessed with.
It is.
Jessica, how are you? Hold on one
Pretty good. How
second.
are you?
I'm pretty good. Enjoying this beautiful day I've been. All right, we are live on YouTube for the Mighty Process Server YouTube channel, which is great for makes it easy on me for replays. I can put the link inside our community. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you're watching the replay, you can join our free community, Mighty Process Server, and pretty excited about keeping the community going. I haven't been promoting it too much and decided to start doing that recently as we are I'm going to pour a lot of effort, time and effort into helping those inside the community succeed and pretty excited about that. So, looks like Callie's in here too. She is crushing it. Awesome. So, one of the cool things here with the Mighty Meetups is that I keep it very structured, but with Coffee with Mike is really just meant to hang out. I got my Christmas mug way too early. So, and really just chat and have any kind of conversation, questions you may have, things like that. So, uh, Jessica, is there anything on your mind that you want to discuss?
Um, I don't have any questions right now, but I did a paper for a new client yesterday, and I dropped off the affidavit in hand and kind of made a friend. So we're gonna go out to lunch, me, the legal assistant, and I.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of one thing I learned that I didn't learn soon enough, actually, is that business is about building relationships. And and it's strange because we all have our own personal biases from where we went to school or where we grew up. And it's not that you maybe don't like somebody, but it's not somebody you would choose as like your best friend. And so sometimes we'll tend to steer away from that person or have any kind of additional encounter. Or if we did have an additional encounter, what is our ulterior motive, right? And so battling that initially is what you got to get through because eventually you realize, just like when you're dating, I guess, just because you go on a date doesn't mean you're getting married. It also doesn't mean that you have to have sex with them, right? It doesn't mean that you have to do all these other things. It's the same thing in business. Just because you meet somebody and you want to like take them out for coffee or whatever, doesn't mean you're now going to be business partners and you have to give 50% of all of your business to this person, right?
Mhm.
So I love that concept in it. And since in real estate, you have to swallow that pill that, hey, this person actually has an annoying voice. You don't want to spend any time with them. They just kind of annoy you in general for whatever reason. Maybe there was someone, your younger sister or younger brother or something was annoying and they would remind you of that person. I don't know. But you get through that and be professional and build relationships, and it's crazy what can happen. So this was a relationship with somebody at the court, you said, or
A law firm downtown. So the actual paper took me like 30 minutes to do right here, but then I spent an hour and a half just to go down there and get back just to meet her in person. So
okay.
yeah, I think it'll pay off.
Law firms are the best.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one too. So we'll see.
Yeah, law firms are the best. Having the law firms that have divorce cases where they're doing criminal. One thing I noticed is the criminal combined with the family law. If you have a firm that does those two things, that's probably the most dramatic firm that you're gonna, where they have, they're serving subpoenas on a regular basis, where they gotta find this one guy who was on the subway, who happened to see what happened, and they need to subpoena him to show up to court. Those ones will make you so much money because they are always last minute, right? And they have no problem paying. They already have a retainer of 5,000, $10,000, whatever it is. And I've made so much money on those guys. Also, those guys often are the ones that end up having newer attorneys because it's like a mill. They always need someone to show up to court. And so they always have new attorneys coming in and then leaving and going off on their own. And so those are really good to start with when you're early on because you will grow with them, with those attorneys as they branch out. Assuming you bend over backwards for them, let them know, hey, I'm just starting out too. Let's do this together. I'm going to give you a break, or talking business with them too, taking them out to lunch. A lot of people you hear in the industry, they're like, no, it's the paralegals. Well, that's cool in a very broad sense, for a big firm that's already sending out a lot of work. That's true. But I actually like the idea of working with attorneys right out of law school, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, there's even like young attorney associations, so you could target them directly.
hmm Yeah, because it's the relationships.
Hmm.
You could build a relationship with a paralegal, and then she'll go off to another firm where they have in-house process servers or they're using somebody. Because in California, I know it's different everywhere, but in California, attorneys can have staff employees serve their papers.
Hmm.
They don't have to outsource it. So yeah, crazy stuff. So it just depends. Every market's a little bit different, but yeah. So one of the things I want to talk about today is scaling and seeing what people are thinking and where people are going. Um, it's
I'm just
barely.
waiting for my website to be done and then I'll feel better about going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me take a look here. Da-da-da. Mr. Spar,
Hey,
Good day,
Jeff.
sir. Good day. Hello, guys.
how's it going?
It's going good. Uh, sorry about that. Been a little bit busy.
Why? Why in the world would Jeff Spar be busy?
Well, just trying to keep afloat.
Keeping it going, keeping it going. Good stuff, man. Well, we were just talking about websites and growing your business. Jessica's website looks like it's in progress. Okay. You got
Jessica, Jessica will be very happy once it's done because it's the greatest thing that's happened to my business in 30 years.
Jeff is one of our greatest spokesmen here. He really is. I gotta say.
Well, I'm going to run my mouth for a minute, but when you can just wake up and you have jobs on your, server manager in your database, and money's in your bank, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
You know,
creating an
Saves a lot of
automated,
time.
yeah. Wait, who is that? Is that you, Jessica?
Yeah, just the order form and the automation saves so much time.
Yeah. And then Callie, I don't know if her thing has ever worked here. It says connecting audio. Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, did you get your coffee, Jeff? Or are you cheating?
um, grapefruit juice.
What do you drink? Healthy? I don't know. It's probably a lot of juices now. You never know if they have too much sugar.
Well, I squeezed this myself at Fresh Market.
You did?
Yeah,
Wow.
they have a machine there that you can when they have grapefruits in it or they have oranges in it. So I go in 2 or 3 times a week and I squeeze my own, and it's a little bit expensive, but it's good.
That's great. That's great. Well, we've talked a lot about different things, but I know we have new people coming in constantly. I did a post and we got like 20 members join like in a couple days. So I think if promoted properly, we can have a couple hundred people in here. We could actually do something pretty cool with this community. So I have decided, Jeff, you'll be happy to know I have decided to start a directory. Um, I want to make it free for as many of the early adopters as I can. And of course, there'll be like premium listings and stuff like that. But I think it's one thing our industry really doesn't have other than NAPS. But NAPS is more of an association. And so, but that'll be pretty exciting. That'll be something that I'll get some kickback on from them and other people, but I don't care. I think we got something pretty cool that we can do here to help process servers grow. He knew I'd come back around.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be real quiet about it. I knew eventually you would come back around because it's gonna be a good thing. I'll just sit back and wait and watch.
Yeah, it's gonna take time, but it has to rank in order for people to get any benefit out of it. So it's gonna take me writing a blog post every couple days, and I need a lot of help too. Like that, my goal is in the different states that I can, people could give me a tip about, hey, in my state they started doing XYZ. There's a new law comes out that we actually have to serve it a different way or something like that so that I can research it and it'll kind of help me direct where I need to look. And then I can write blog posts and newsletters and stuff and then tag the person who helped me understand what's going on in that state. And that's essentially how a lot of these associations start, right? Is they start out with a lot of people just collaborating and figuring things out. And a lot of these states do have great associations, but most of them don't actually. If you look at it on a national scale. Where are you at again, Jessica? Washington?
Seattle area, yeah, ours is dead, so.
It's just dead. So you could be the person who revives it. I mean, not that you have to. I'm actually of the opinion that associations are more of a side thing. They're not a requirement. They're a thing that helps you keep your business alive. It helps keep your profession alive in your state.
Mhm.
Because one law can change and essentially make it where you can't even serve papers anymore. You
Yeah,
know,
maybe they are. I mean, I used to work for the guy that runs it or used to keep up with it. I don't know if they're actually doing anything or just the website hasn't been updated since 2007. I don't know.
since forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
2007, that was before the real estate crash. It was like a lifetime ago, really. It's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But yeah, you can start building your business like you're doing and then become a part of this national conversation and become a part of everything that's going on. And then before you know it, you're like, hey, why aren't we doing something here? And what, like who's dealing with this? I'll pick it up and then you can do it. The thing is, like, if it doesn't help your business, then don't do it. That's what I always say. So a lot of these people, I've done a lot of these, been asked to help with a lot of different association things, and I have helped, and there's a place for it. But if it's taken away from your business, then don't do it. Don't help with it. So, but cool. So let's talk a little bit about scaling. What do you guys think about you talk about marketing, you talk about boots on the ground, getting a new customer. This is where it starts, right? What does it mean to scale though? What does it mean to when people talk about scaling? Let's look at venture capitalist scaling, what that is, right? What scaling is in like venture capitalists, like where essentially somebody's going to take a business like a software or an app or even a service-based company or a franchise, and they want to scale it. What that means in general business terms usually is they're going to pour millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars into growing it instead of bootstrapping it. So how can you bootstrap scale? We're going to create a new term, bootstrap scale, and maybe there's already a term for it, I don't know. But bootstrap your way and grow your business and scale it in a way that makes more sense. What is happening? Oh, Zoom is moving things around. Okay. Cool. Multi-speaker view. Okay, so if you talk, it'll show. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's crazy how these businesses are all, Zoom has come so far. I mean, I remember I used to interview people on Zoom, and people were so confused. Zoom, what's Zoom? And the way I always explained it was, uh, it's like Skype. This is how long ago it was. It's like Skype, but it's easier. And nobody knew what Zoom was. Nobody knew what Zoom was. And then COVID hit, and now everyone knows what Zoom is. And I am proud to say that I bought Zoom at $32 a share, and now it's hundreds of dollars a share. So I
There
didn't
you
make
go.
I didn't make a fortune, but I did okay. When actually I took too long to buy, but actually because it was when I was sitting there on the couch in Florida and I heard somebody say, let's just Zoom. Or what do you say? Zoom me. We'll just Zoom. We'll just Zoom later today. And it was like on a TV show. And I was like, oh wow, I gotta invest in this. So, I was like, this is becoming mainstream. And now it's like way mainstream, right? They've had their challenges and stuff, but Cool. So if you're going to bootstrap scale, what are a few things that you can do? So what I've learned bootstrap scale would be something more like you could pay some money as you go that will bring you some outsized returns. Meaning instead of paying $1, because generally when you scale and you pour money on something, it's in regards to ads, right? You're going to run ads, or you're going to have a whole team of people cold calling or something. But how can you get started with it now? Well, I will tell you, virtual assistants at $2 an hour is probably the most outsized returns you could get. You could start at $2 an hour. They will do data scraping for you. They will do all kinds of things for you. But they're a lot to manage. They're a lot to manage. So you can hire a team, which now it's becoming more expensive if you hire someone else to do it. So what I recommend and what I've decided to do there in California with I have e-filing software and we're moving into Texas to doing e-filing. And e-filing is basically free in Texas. So there's like, it doesn't make any sense for me to do e-filing there, but I'm going to do it anyway because I can, right? And the way that I'm going to scale it essentially is getting attorneys that are going to serve for you guys to use me for e-filing. That's kind of the goal. So anybody who's in Texas, my goal is to connect with those process servers on the ground, boots on the ground, and create a directory. So before my scale was going with what everybody else was doing, which is just scale, create your own software, and or to partner with someone to have your own software so you get all the data. And that's what a lot of people are doing out there. They don't want to talk openly about it. That's what it is. They get their software, they get your client's data. Now they can automate. So they don't even have to actively do it. They can automate by using Pixels and API to be able to target your ideal customer in your ideal market without having to do any market research, without having to go around your back at all actively because of technology. So for me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to unsubscribe from this. I unsubscribe from all of that. I am actually going to start a directory and go all in on helping the process server become more successful in their local market. Right. And that's what I've did with the websites. And that's so I feel best about doing it that way versus being your competitor. So, because I could go into Texas, I could scale and dump a bunch of money in and try to get all the attorneys and have people cold calling. Because Texas has a big, great market, but it's not going to, it's a big uphill climb. And I'm not even from Texas, and I just don't feel right about it. So anyway, so what questions do you guys have? I see Reuven in here. What's up, Reuven? Reuven's my California brother from another mother.
Morning, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Just having coffee with myself. And you guys?
Yeah, I'm making mine right now. My espressos.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Come on, we don't get to see your mug today?
No, I'm not done with my coffee.
Mm. So you guys don't have a cup of Joe. You'll have to get some tomorrow. I'm gonna do this what did I say, all week? I'm gonna try to do it every week, every morning. Um and see how it goes, let's get to know each other. I don't want to just chat your heads off, but scaling with VAs is one way. Another way is surprisingly cheap is flyers. Creating nice flyers in your local market and going to places and actually handing them out. Having somebody having a kids, I have teenage kids, so I could print, 5,000 flyers and just drive to a place, sit there, be playing on my phone, doing whatever on my phone, and have kids just, spread them out. I'm curious to know what you guys what have you tried and what's working and what's not working for you. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay,
No,
go ahead, Ruben. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. So yeah, I haven't done flyers yet. I thought about doing flyers, but I wasn't sure what kind of flyers to make or how to advertise it that way. I've been trying to call in some attorneys here and there when I'm going different places to serve. If I see any attorneys, write down information and call them later on. But that's all I've done so far.
Mhm. Yeah, I think keeping it simple too, like if you're gonna do process server, because I did go down this road with the sign before. I mentioned before I did that just to see if it would work, and it did. Like every time I stood out there, it only took me about 30 minutes. The second time took me about an hour, and I would have someone come out of the courthouse and go, "I got to serve my ex." It's like I think this is gonna sound crazy, and my first partner, well, first affiliate that sent me work, she would hate this idea because it's all about your presentation. But I'm like, you're a process server. It's not like you have to be in a suit and you have to be this like super professional all the time, right? What if you hired, you know how people hire sign flippers? What if you hired a person, they had to dress presentable like more probably than you do on a regular basis or than I do when I was serving. I would wear a polo every day with my logo, right? Which I thought was pretty professional for a process server. And but what if you hired somebody to stand out on the courthouse steps? You're like, need a process server, give us a try, we'll serve your guy was used to be my tagline. You feel free to steal that. Give us a try, we'll serve your guy, and just have that on the sign, and just have them think about that. $15 an hour. $15 an hour if they stood out on the courthouse steps. Sure, you're gonna get pro pers. You're gonna get a lot of pro pers. Well, actually, maybe not in California because of e-filing. But if you have a lot of walk-ins in your state and you had somebody, you're paying them what, $15 an hour? What's minimum wage now? Anybody know?
Around 16.
Well, you're in California too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So let's say 16. So $16 an hour times 8. Let's do some math since we're not in a rush here. 16 an hour times 8 hours. Well, probably not 8 hours. Well, would you do 8 hours? Let's say 6 hours because you're not going to do the full time because the courthouse is closed sometimes, right? So 6 times 16 was $96. So $100. In that 6 hours, can they get one job? Can they get two jobs standing there? Right. And then if the attorney sees your brand and they're holding it, they're going to be like, who does that? I don't know. It's just an idea. I would be curious to know because I have done it and I got work from it, but it was me. So I could sell it. You know what I'm saying? But could you scale is what we're talking about. And scaling is about finding ways to grow your business without you having to be there. That's really, I guess, the definition of scale and what we're talking about. Because otherwise, you would just dump millions of dollars on it and watch it grow. That's the other way to look at it. So bootstrap scale is what we're talking about. What other way? So flyers, I think on a marketing perspective, if I'm going to hand out flyers or I'm going to put flyers out, I'm thinking what will convey a message immediately? And then why would you pass out flyers for process servers in a Walmart parking lot? Your chances are you would get someone. But but not very low, not very high. It's a very low percentage, right? However, if you passed out flyers at during middle of the day at the courthouse on all the cars, could that be helpful? Yeah. I probably wouldn't do it every day. I'd probably do it once a month, right? But what about during while they're having a hearing for child support stuff? What you could do is you could be really smart about this. You could say when they have eviction court and everybody shows up to eviction court, you know what I'm talking about? The courthouse always has like a Thursday where they show up for eviction court in where I was in Chico. They would have a Thursday, and I would always show up to eviction court because I had a few different eviction clients that always would want me to come. And even if they didn't want me to come, I would just show up because it started becoming like a part of my business, a big part of my business. And then half the room was people I served. So it was just something I kind of look forward to each week. I'd go there and then sit there, and half the time they wouldn't ask me to testify. But if somebody ever said I didn't get served, I would see the attorney without even like calling me or asking me to be there, turn around and look at where I always sat there against the wall in the corner on the plaintiff side. It would always like turn around and look. Oh yeah, he's there. Your Honor, my process server is in the room. Actually, he's sitting over there. And that was cool because other attorneys who were in the room were like, you know, were like, who's this guy? Why is he just randomly sitting here? Dang, and they're trying to defend their client or whatever. So you could go on a Thursday and post on all the cars, eviction, eviction specialist, call for eviction specialist free consultation or whatever, and just post that on there. And you're going to get some people who are you're going to get some people who are trying not to get evicted.
Right.
And then you can refer them to an attorney who will defend them. And that attorney who's going to defend them is going to say, like, who sent you? Oh, Mike, the processor, or, Jessica, the processor. Right. So I think there's a lot of different ways to think about it. But if you look at scale is you're like, well, how is flyer scale? I still have to hand them out. No, it's scale because you can hit print and pay somebody, seriously, you could pay somebody $20. A lot of times you think about where you are, and you would never go do something like hand out 5,000 flyers. You would never do that for $50 because it would take you so long, right? But a couple of teenage kids or college kids that want to go get some beer money or whatever, they would, because they're broke. Like, and so being a business owner is understanding how to find good resources, having good people work for you, represent you, and do things for you at a price that you would never do it for. I have people in my family that think that that is dishonest, or that's not making, an honest living. I don't want to make an honest living. I want to sit here and make honest money without having to work. That's what I want to do. And that's and you can get there, but it takes a lot of effort on the front end, where you put so much effort on the front end building something that is worth something, so that later it continues to pay you even while you're not working. That's what building a business is, right? Like Warren Buffett says, the best investment is in yourself. The second best investment is in something that will continue to pay you forever. Like, and so when you look at him investing in businesses, he doesn't invest in stocks. He invests in businesses, because businesses, you can look at the elements of the business and decide whether it's going to succeed or not. And then that will be how you decide whether you want to invest in it. Like he invests in Geico and Bank of America and like Wrigley's chewing gum, right? Like things that had been around forever that he thinks will always be consumed or used forever. I think he owns like 40% of every airline, because airline is such a niche thing that not a lot of new airlines just come into the market. So anyway, how can you grow? What other things have we tried? So flyers, we talked about paying somebody to go and hand them out, but being smart about it. What else we got? What else? Other ideas? I can give you my ideas until I'm
You
blue in the
can
face.
do flyers when you're serving a law firm.
Yeah, yeah. Flyers when you're serving. What about business cards when you're serving a law firm? Like put it on a paper clip
Mhm.
on the paperwork. I did that so many times. Like if I knew when you're going to serve somebody for an attorney, I don't know if other states do this, but in California, we used to do what's called a 10-11 drop. And you could just drop it off at the office between the hours of like 9 to 5, I think is what it is. And if you just go in, you could give it to a secretary. And so for those, I know now they can email each other. It's been that way for a while. They could just email it to each other. But for a long time, they would have to serve it. And I would always put my business card on there. And I got quite a few business, and it's like you're pre-qualified. You're pre-qualified to serve for them. Why? Because you're serving for the guy across from them in court. You're serving for someone they respect that they're litigating with, right? What else we got? Let's see, flyers. Let's transition a little bit. What do you hope for your business? I'm curious what you're hoping. Jeff, I know you're hoping to turn this over to your boy, and he's gonna take over your business, and he's gonna crush it.
Yeah, he's out serving papers as we speak, and I decided in the last 2 weeks that I'm only gonna help them out locally, local papers, and I'm not doing any PR work anymore. I've got a couple people that I'm gonna keep my license for unusual cases, but I'm gonna transition into 75% retired instead of just 50%. But yeah, my son's gonna take over the business. Just touch base on the flyers that Jessica said. When you're serving a paper at a law firm, that's great. Drop off a flyer if it's not your current client, or even if it is and they have 15 paralegals in there and you only deal with 2 or 3 of them, leave a flyer anyway, because those other paralegals, might see it and you might be able to pick them up.
I love that. And I love the idea too with the paralegals. Imagine a paralegal is an employee. 100% of the time, a paralegal is an employee, or some, I guess sometimes she may be a contractor and the attorney's trying to do something funny, right? But 90% of the time, that paralegal is an employee. She rarely gets very many benefits. She gets paid basically a higher hourly wage. She may get health benefits probably half the time, maybe, and it's an option for her probably half the time. You being a benefit to her job is an easy benchmark. Hey, you go and you talk to them, you serve them or whatever, and you say, "Hey, I just want to leave this flyer, but I want to leave a few flyers if you could share them with the other paralegals. Is that okay?" Yeah, okay, great. If you get an okay, yeah, no problem, I'll do it. Oh my gosh, bend over backwards. What kind of coffee do you guys drink? I now like it's almost like game on. If they're like, yeah, I'll share it with the other paralegals, it's like now it's like game on. Okay, what kind of coffee? Do you guys drink coffee in here? Yeah, yeah, we do. Starbucks, okay. I noticed there's one right here down the street too, right? Yeah, yeah, we always go, we get the thing, da, 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 da. And so you'll actually find out information. And I've only done this a couple times, but I would get these vats. What I found more effective was actually they want the experience of going to Starbucks. So even though I like bringing the vats to them, these big vats of coffee, what actually they enjoy more is just the experience of when they go on break, they can go buy a coffee, whatever it is that they want, and they can experience that. So having gift cards is way better. It's way better. And then having candy, I would bring in candy, even though that's a double-edged sword, because a lot of them are like, "Oh, Mike, please don't bring the candy in," even though they love you for bringing the candy in. Um, it is better to just bring the Starbucks gift card and with a special note on it. Hey, thanks for that job last week. You're so awesome. Because then they directly relate it. I put a little sticky note on it and then I'd write on there. I actually had my assistant Nancy at the time. That's another thing. Like we talk about scale. Instead of having to worry about sending serves out all over the place, as soon as you can actually afford an assistant, like a personal assistant, to do all of your emails and print out all your serves and put them in the proper folder, or maybe your spouse does this for you. Oh my gosh. Like once I got a Nancy, if you guys watch my old videos, I would rave about Nancy all the time because Nancy was always over my shoulder. You saw her on her computer behind me. And does anybody remember Nancy? I don't know, Reuven, I think you were around back
I
then.
remember her.
Yeah. Nancy was great, and she's an older lady who just who needed a job while her husband was a contractor. They did really well in life, and she would go with me to all the conferences. She'd book all my flights. She would answer all my emails. She'd answer all my calls, and I think I paid her a little bit over minimum wage, and so and I gave her some bonuses. I took her on all the trips with me and stuff, paid for everything. So. But yeah, having an assistant was just so good. As soon as I was making, 10, it was like 25,000 a month. That's when I was like, all right, doing the math, I'm like 10% of that, 2,500, $3,000 a month is easily doable. That's when I pulled the trigger on it. And a lot of that came from me just being in the car all day, right? So I had serving a lot of collection stuff and child support papers for the contracts that I had gotten. So, but yeah, it's just, being a little bit falling in the right place, but then also a fair amount of luck. You make the right decisions and then you get, blessed, or, the universe says, let's throw this guy a bone and see what he does with it, right?
Mhm.
So websites are good. What are some other ways to promote maybe your website? So digitally, how do you get in the right communities online? How do you find out where your ideal customers hanging out? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? Where are they?
I've gotten a bunch of customers from like women's divorce groups that I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah. On
I like
Facebook.
that. I like that. Yeah, because you know they're and a lot of times too they might even just tell you like what attorney, who their attorney is, you could be, so when you go in there, are you saying, "Hey, I'm a process server," or are you saying like, are you being a part of the community?
Well, I'm one of them and I'm a process server, so I'm in.
Yeah. So you can relate to them. You can relate to
hmm
them. So you are a part of their community. That's the best way to be. So, like with judgment recovery is one of the examples I always give, right? Is that anyone who's in business has somebody who owes them money. And when you go to these like BNI networking groups and stuff like that, you can pretty much you can say, I'm a process server, and everybody looks confused. There's a movie that the Pineapple Express that kind of let everybody know what process server was, but not everybody's seen it. I think most people haven't seen it. And so if you say process server and they're like, they're thinking you're a coder or some kind of like, computer programmer. Even Google thinks that sometimes when you first search it, when I used to search it. So just say something like judgment recovery specialist. I'm someone who helps collect on debts that are where you've already gotten a judgment. You got to be careful because if you collect, you say you're a collection agency, you actually have to be like licensed and all this kind of stuff. But most states, for judgment recovery, you don't have to be. You're basically somebody who once you have a judgment and a judge stamps and says, "Hey, Callie won in the case against Reuben," right? Then I can collect that money from Reuben. I can find out how much money he has in his bank account. I can find out how much money he had or how much he has in assets, right? I can find out. So these are general statements that I'll make to somebody who doesn't know the industry. And then you got to go make that happen. There are people who will ping bank accounts. You got to check your state laws and what's legal and all that stuff. But I know in some states, specifically if you're out of state, you can actually do this. I'm not going to teach it here, but you can actually find out how much they have in their account. You can actually do a levy on somebody's bank account, assuming you have a judgment. There's so much you can do once you have a judgment. And so that could be your specialty. You could join groups of any kind of professional organization like plumbers, electricians, whatever, and be that person. In real estate, I became that person. In Northern California, they have an investor meetup in San Francisco, and I got connected with a couple of those guys, and they were like, "Oh, you're a skip tracer," and so they just went crazy with it. Can you come speak at our meeting? And I went and spoke at the meeting, and there's probably about 200 real estate guys there. That's how I initially got started in real estate, actually, way back in the day, in 2014, I think 2015. And I came and spoke, and they're like, I was like, "This is how you protect yourself against," I did this whole PowerPoint presentation, protect yourself against people using an LLC and using contracts and stuff. And and they said, and afterwards, I got so many people coming up to me like, I have a guy that owes me, $7,000 on an earnest money deposit. I have another guy that owes me, and I'm like, I learned at that moment, I had to ask them like, well, do you have a judgment? Well, yeah, we went through court. I won in court, and now but I can't collect it. The guy is a deadbeat. I don't know anything about him, all this stuff. And then I skip trace him and find out that he owns property. He owns a house. He owns two different houses. He lives in one, and another one's a rental. I find out the rental's under an LLC. I find out the LLC has a bank account with Wells Fargo, right? I find out, and so you can find out these things and you can do this investigation and you can actually collect money. So that's just one of the ways. That's another business, essentially, another arm of your business that you can create. And I don't, Jeff, you're a PI, so I'm sure you have experience with this.
Yeah, I was going to say to Jessica if she had the time or finances to, get into PI work, and you mentioned that that group of divorce online or something like that. I did joined a couple of groups online and I did something that you suggested. I just joined, and for the first 45 days, I just kept my mouth shut, didn't really interact much, and then after a month or so being in the group, then I would, make a comment about what I do and so forth, and then people would, inquire back to me privately and stuff like that. So I've gotten a couple of domestic cases like that.
I even advise them like how to do it for free. And then I say, well, if you need somebody, if you want to hire somebody, here's my email address. So it's not like I'm pushing my business on them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, being a part of the community is like the rule number one, because if you just go in there and you post, and people do this inside of Process Server Nation, inside the Facebook group. That's why I changed the name of it so it would be different than the school group. But yeah, people will come in there and I know them by name now, and so I don't remove them if they just post, a thing over and over, but like I know a couple people that I will see them once a month come into the group and just post their business card. And sometimes I'll let it happen because I don't mind people promoting their business. But when that's all they do, it becomes very apparent and obvious that that's all they do. Then it's like, okay, who are you? Like, what are you doing here? Like, are you still in business? Process serving is pretty straightforward, but in these communities, like what you're talking about, like everyone's trying to support each other, and people are, and if you just came in there and just posted a business card or a flyer or something like that, they might be like, okay, let's remove you. You get removed
Yeah,
pretty fast, especially if you're
I get
rude.
deleted.
Yeah. Yeah, you can also ask for permission. I should mention that, sometimes business they're just people too. So if you message them and say, "Hey, I have a business where I help people find their exes for child support and be able to serve them," sometimes it really is as simple as finding their ex, serving them the child support paperwork so that they can move forward with the case. Because once they're served that initial case, and they get some type of an address, now they can just mail everything as a notice. And if the person doesn't respond, they just lose the case anyway. But God bless America, you need that first service in order for it to make sense.
Yeah, and while you're swallowing your coffee there, I will say that I get a lot of calls. I do a lot of free work now. I'll talk to somebody for 45 minutes to an hour. I had a mother call me, the baby's dad was in jail. So instead of charging the normal rate it was, I just charged her basically $15 to $20 just to get the paper served for her. She was in an abusive relationship, and I'm very much involved with personal family matters where my family's been involved in some abusive relationships. So I try to help those people. And the point of doing that, two things. One, it's just a good feeling to me, and two, it's helping people, helping people, in need and so forth. And word of mouth goes a long way. They're going to talk to somebody down the road from now that may say, hey, call Jeff, he did this, and he actually helped me out to charge me next to nothing and so forth. And I've done a number of free work over the years, especially now that I'm semi-retired. I've done a lot more than I have in the past.
That's cool, Jeff. That's cool. I mean, I'm sorry that you've had to deal with some of that. But it gives you a perspective, right? That you're able to help, whereas somebody else without that experience, would not be able to help. I'm a
Yeah, for
vet.
sure.
You're a better man than me. Like I think about my kids, and like if my daughter were, I don't know your situation, but if I think about it, that's one of my nightmares. If something were to happen to my daughter or whatever, I'd probably kill somebody. You think that ahead of time, and then you think, what if I ever had to go through that? You'd ruin your whole life if you killed somebody, right? So you start to think about all that, but yeah, hopefully you just get through it. But yeah, business wise and as a PI, there's probably nothing better you could do to solidify yourself in the industry if this is where you're going to go than becoming a private investigator. 100%. And the cool thing about being a private investigator, I will say, is if it's something that you aspire to or enjoy. I went down the rabbit hole a little bit. I became one through a Delta and Horseman. And I will tell you though that they mainly do surveillance, so the money's there. There's plenty of money there if you're willing to do surveillance. If you do surveillance long enough so that you can get your own license, then you can go into other types of investigation. But some states are no fault states. Like California is a no fault state. So if you just as an example, and I'd love to hear the other states, um, but it's a no fault state. So you're not really doing the where you're catching the person cheating, really. Like you could, because the person wants to know if their ex is cheating or their husband's cheating. But the states where there's a fault state, like I think Georgia's a fault state, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple other states around there, those southern states, if you're cheating, you're caught cheating, and there's proof that you were cheating, you will lose the case in court, in the divorce case. And I never knew what that meant because I've been divorced, and so I'm like, what do you mean you lost? Well, you can lose in a divorce case where essentially you're the person having to pay your ex alimony. Like a woman who cheated might be paying her husband alimony payments because she cheated, right? Which is unheard of in California. Like that would never happen. So what is it with you, Jeff? How is it in your state?
Well, in Virginia, they do have the no fault thing, like you said, but you know, a lot of people are misunderstanding the reason why it's important to have a PI work a case, and I'll just explain part of it. Not giving legal advice or anything like that, but if the person is cheating and they're in a situation, it's more than likely going to be 50-50. However, if the person is capable of working and you show that they are cheating, it's going to affect the amount of money that the spouse is going to pay either in alimony to the wife or child support and so forth. So I always tell my clients when they first call me, besides I tell them, feel free to call, 2 or 3 other investigators to feel them out and see which one you feel more comfortable with, and then make an educated decision on which one you want to use to go forward. But I tell them, if you spend 2, 3, or maybe sometimes, depending on the case, $8,000 on a PI with me, that's going to save you money in the long run. You'll get that money back in less money that you'll end up having to pay out because you've proved that the other person's doing this, and it's going to affect the difference in the dollar amount that the person's going to get. And lastly, we do a lot of cases where there's been a divorce and the spouse is tasked to pay alimony, and they're living with somebody. Here's a key thing: they're living with somebody. So if they're living with somebody that's contributing to the financial situation at the house, then they're not entitled to, so much money if it can be proved that Joe Schmo is living there. So we've done many hundreds of cases like that, just showing that the ex-spouse has a partner living there and sharing the expenses, and that will make a difference in the alimony and support that they're getting.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've also heard that the best idea is to never leave the home, the place of matrimony. Again, no legal advice here, but just thinking about how it relates to being a PI and how you can, the reason why I brought it up, the whole becoming a PI once you had your comment, was because I'm a firm believer, and I'm not saying this because I'm happy about it. I'm a firm believer that process serving will be 90, at least 90, somewhere 90, 80, 90% electronic at some point. And when that day comes, there will be, it's a good thing actually for those that stick around, because you will be able to get a premium for serving the papers that you do serve, right? Because you're going to have, it's going to be almost like when you hire a private investigator right now, you don't pay them $99 because you almost never need one. So when you do need, just like an attorney, when you do need one, you're going to pay a premium. And then there will be the process serving that does happen by the big box. It's primarily going to be by the big box companies because they're going to get those contracts to serve it for $15 a piece. And so you could work for those guys. And if you don't believe me, or you guys are like, this is crazy, look at a state like Florida, where there's a big company and they have multiple process servers all over the state that will serve from anywhere from $8 to no more than like 25, no more than $25. And then the person who's getting paid, the bigger company that's getting paid is it's not even a huge company. Like I can name off a few of them, LRI, Lynx Legal. They're getting paid $60 or 50 something dollars, and then they're paying the process server 15 or 20. So I think eventually we may end up in that type of situation. The Marshall home. Oh yeah, yeah. Yep, abandoning the marital home. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Don't so anyway, that's the only reason I bring it up, because if you're a PI, you are the person that's still you're diversified, you're able to do a lot of things. Some states require you to be a private investigator to do what I was talking about with debt collecting or judgment recovery. And some require that you have a whole separate license of like collection agency, right? So you want to look it up in your local state, but if you can collect a debt for somebody, like actually call and say, hey, I want to negotiate this thing between you and so. You already have the ability to skip trace. You're already plugged into a network of other process servers to be able to serve whatever paperwork needs to be served. And I'm actually thinking like that's why this whole directory thing is a great, I love this idea, because we're actually going to be able on a national scale going to have relationships with people, not process servers, people. So whether they want to be notary publics, whether they want to be collection, and build a community around that. And so whatever people are doing, we can actually like find these cool niches, and out of that is going to come collaboration. Like, hey, this is what I tried in my state and it worked. And then it's like I don't pretend to know it all. I can just say where I've been, right? Like Jeff has like 30,000 years of experience. And so we can draw on that, And Jessica, you have a perspective that we don't have, right? Like as a woman and as a what you've been through, um, you know, and we're all in different states pretty much too, I think. I think Cali's in California too, if I'm not mistaken. Montague and Reuven's in California too. So I'm now in New Mexico, but I understand mostly of California, Texas, and Florida. Those are the areas I know the best. So who all oh that's right, Cali is in Texas. That's right. Yeah, you're right. So cool, we have a Texas person in here. Cool. So we're kind of represented nationwide. Jeff's all the way on the east. All right. Jessica's on the northwest. Reuven's in California, and Callie and I are in the Midwest, I guess. New Mexico and Texas. Any other questions, you guys? I think we had a pretty cool conversation. I'm gonna be back again tomorrow. I need some better coffee. Um, and maybe some breakfast before our next meeting. But what do you guys thinking? Any other questions or comments? What are our plans for today? Do you guys want me to hold you accountable?
Well, you're costing me money, by the way.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because after I get ready at about 1 o'clock, I'm gonna go to Starbucks and pick up 15 gift cards and flyers, which I have behind me, and my business card. And I'm gonna go to 2 firms. I'll probably get 20 gift cards. And I'm gonna do that just to try it. And then on our next, not tomorrow, but maybe the end of the month one or whenever that is, I'll let you know how that turns out. Because if I invest $200 to $250 in that matter, and I pick up, one or two, or even one, obviously I'll be happy, because that'll turn into some good bucks. These are two of the biggest firms in Virginia.
So the one thing I will say, Jeff, is being very intentional about it. So like when you give them, if you just pass them out, like you're just a rich guy. You're just a rich guy, okay? But if you do it intentionally, like you like have them in your pocket ready to go, and then have a conversation with somebody, like whoever you talk to, and write their name down and say, yeah, let's say her name is Kate. You're like, Kate, I've been serving for so and so for a while. We've been doing a great job. I would love to earn your business. What is it right now that you're not getting from your current process server? That one question, if you can get them to answer it, then they're already thinking that they want to use you. Most likely they won't answer it. You know what? He's great, whatever. But if they do say anything to the effect of, because you don't want to look like you're buying their business, even though you are. But if it's more, it works so much better when you can do it as a reward versus a payment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So handing them out could work too, because they're like, man, we don't get coffee from him, but we get coffee from Jeff. Let's just use Jeff. That can happen too. That can happen too. So yeah, I'm actually really intrigued to know how it goes. You know, pass them out, hand them out, build relationships, shake hands. Bring your son. He's a good looking guy. You know?
Yeah, I may do that. He and I went to this one of our current clients had a Christmas thing last year, and we went to that, and there was every judge, tons of lawyers. I'm at the point. I'm sorry to run my mouth, but I'll just take 20 seconds. There's two judges locally that they're not supposed to do this, but they've done it in open court. They have used my name and told the attorneys, they would turn around and say, well, the sheriff couldn't get this done, blah, 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 or we can't find this person. She literally from the bench gave my name out to some clients. So when you get to that point, you're obviously doing something really, 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 really good. And I've worked really hard for 30 years to get and keep that reputation.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you that's what I'm saying. Like if you can go in and have your wisdom and your reputation and bring your son who's the young buck who can, build those relationships, you can transfer that over. It's also a cool story. People want a story. And the idea that you see this father coming in with his son and his process serving PIs is what they do together. That's a story most people want to buy into, and if you all it takes is one relationship of someone in there to say, man, these guys are so good. They're so much better than the people that I was using. And the other paralegals hear that and they say, okay, well, let me just give them a shot then, So good stuff, Jeff. All right, cool. Yeah, I like the idea. Jessica says maybe tomorrow we talk about how to approach firms that are using the default big box companies. So the cool thing about those guys is when you call them, 100% of the time they will try you if you call them. Because if they are using big box companies and if they do have paralegals, because when I call them, in my experience, I should say in my experience, when I call them and I say, I'd love to be your backup server, like my script says, most of the time they're like, yeah, send it over, definitely, because they know that their big box company gives them a few things that they really like, consistency, they get their proofs probably on a decent time frame or whatever, and they're cheaper, right, than most places. But they would actually like to pay more for a premium service. They would actually love to have a person with a name that they could call and say, Jessica, what's going on? What can we do to get this done differently? Can we be creative with this? We really want to get this person served because they can't do that with the big box company. The big box company is like, okay, did you check our portal? Status is on our portal, uh, you know, and so you're not going to do that. So the way that you beat these big box companies, which we'll talk about tomorrow, okay, I'm all diving into it, but yeah, we'll actually go into that more, and we'll look at some of the big box companies actually by name, and we'll look at their websites and see how we can be different than them, take what they do well, and how can we be different than them based on how much they charge, what services they offer. I think you'll be surprised if you actually dive in and look at their websites like I have in the past, or if you even try calling them, the different experience that you have versus calling an individual server who covers like a broader market, like a state. Like if you can cover your whole state, or in California, maybe just the northern state, right? Like I used to, then you can actually get a whole better experience. And that's how you dominate a market, honestly. You don't just dominate a little city, you dominate a little area around where basically that state where the laws are all the same. And then that company, there's a couple in Texas that I know that do this really well. And you actually have all of the attorneys using you, because there's no way an ABC can compete with you because you're local. Because you're so localized that you yourself will get in the car and go serve something last minute if you had to.
Mhm.
Right? The big box company can't compete with that. So without paying an arm and a leg. So all right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Coffee with Mike. All right. That's the best I could come up with at the last minute. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Be safe out there. Thanks,
Bye.
Jim.
All right,